Hello everyone, this is Vincent here again. I hope you have taken time to watch the first video. This is our second video. And if you have not watched the first video, I'll strongly encourage you to watch the first one because it's not only about a personal welcome message from me, but it's also about understanding yourself. Because if you do not understand yourself, it's very difficult to understand about your investment. And for this particular video, we'll be focusing on the investment terminology rather, or should I say the stock language, because as of every investment, there is a terminology, there are jargons involved, and to make yourself more familiarized with the terminology and jargons of stock investment, this is where I'll be doing the presentation for you, and you can speed up, slow down, or even pause at certain segments of this particular presentation to help yourself memorize or learn better. So without further ado, let me share my screen with you. And I'll do the slideshow mode. So as I've mentioned earlier, this particular video will be focusing more on the stock and technical jargons, or in short, the stock language, speaking the investor language. There are certain, or should I say, there are some terminologies which you must really familiarize yourself, not only during the workshop itself or the bootcamp. I'll also be talking a lot about this jargons and terminology in our monthly gatherings. So it will be to help you to familiarize these terms and jargons so that you won't be so lost during the bootcamp or the gatherings. So the objective of tonight is very simple, to help you to speak the different languages, no, just joking. Rather, to help you to understand the investing jargons and terminology like I've mentioned earlier. Likewise, if you have watched the movie of Despicable Me or Despicable Me 2, you realize that they actually have their own language as well for the minions. So likewise, when it comes down to investing, we have our own set of language as investors. And these are stated today. First is the stock exchange, where the stocks are listed. The index, which is the overall market sentiments. Ticker symbol, which represents the code of the company. The volume represents the amount of shares traded for the day. Liquidity is how easy to buy or sell the shares of the company. Sector-wise is the classification of similar nature of products or services. Industry is the smaller classification within the sector. And market capitalization is the size of the company. Of course, if I were to go through like this, chances are it's very difficult for you to understand. Hence, I've added an additional companion for you for this evening. And this guy is called Tin. He's skinny, he's underweight, he is a stock analyst as well, and his nickname is Tin Man. And let's go straight into the terminology for today. Stocks. Basically, when a company is listed, they'll be selling a percentage of their company onto the stock market. And this is where, when they get listed, they're selling a portion of their company for investors' money. Each stock represents a small percentage of the company. So when we buy a stock, we effectively own a small percentage of the company. Hence, we are also known as owners of the company. Why do I say that? Have you ever bought books from Amazon before? Or have you bought Starbucks, coffee? Probably you would have surfed Facebook or Twitter. If you have done any of those activities that I've mentioned above, then chances are I would say, thank you for supporting my company. Why do I say that? Because when you engage any of their products or services, you are effectively supporting or giving money to them. And when these companies make money, they will in turn return their profits to me as a shareholder. Hence, like I've mentioned here, we are owners of the company. When the company make money, we as investors will make money as well. Next comes the stock exchange. This is where the stocks are listed. So as you can see here, there are multiple channels to view your stocks, the stock prices, and there are different types of stocks exchange. We will focus more on the US and local stock market. So for the US side is NASDAQ. NASDAQ is where most of the IT companies are listed. We have the New York Stock Exchange where majority of the US companies are listed. And of course, we have the Singapore Stock Exchange where our local companies are listed. And this is where companies are listed and how we can find out the respective prices of the stocks. Stock exchange is a very broad term, and henceforth, just learn that stock exchange is a very interesting, pardon me, let me rephrase it again. Stock exchange is where companies are listed, and whenever we want to find out the prices of the stocks, we can go to the respective stocks exchange website to find out the prices. Next up is the sector. Basically, it's the grouping of similar products or services. So when you see an animal like this, the first thing that comes to mind is a bull. When you have a couple of them, you have the imagination of a group of bulls. And of course, when you group everything together, they will form a sector. So in Singapore, there are a total of 14 sectors, whereas in the US, there are 4. Don't be too bogged down by the number of sectors in Singapore or US. This is just for additional information for you. So sectors help us to understand the operations of the company itself. Of course, we can go to the company to find out more about the detailed operation in the company, but sectors will give us a rough understanding of what this company is doing. And industry basically means a smaller classification within the sector. As you have seen earlier about the bull, we can further categorize the bull into smaller portions. And of course, we have this thing what they call the industry players, or what we commonly known as the competitors. So industry helps us to know who their competitors are for the companies that we are going to invest in. Because after all, we want to invest in the top dog, or should I say the leader, market leader of this particular industry, so that we know that we are investing in one of the best companies out there. And to help you to piece the 4 technical jargons together, I've introduced your companion again. So remember I told you earlier, Tin is here. He is feeling hungry and he decided to go to the market to purchase some food. So correlating the market to the stock market is like where the stock exchange is. Why do I say that? Because the market has many different cuisines available for Tin to choose. Hence, it's like different sectors. Likewise, when we go to the stock exchange, there are different sectors, like I've just mentioned in the earlier slides. And if let's say today he's feeling hungry and wants to have some pancakes, that's where this is a Western cuisine, which is a smaller classification or smaller grouping of the cuisines. And this is correlating this to the stock market is like the industry. And likewise, for him to get the pancakes, he needs to go to the store to purchase it. And this is where he purchased the stock from the store. However, please note that it's not always the case where if you want to buy, the store has available stock for you. Hence, we must always check on the stock exchange, whether this particular store has available stock for us to buy or sell at that point in time. Don't worry or don't be too bogged down by the technical details as of this moment. I'll share with you more during the boot camp. Right? So for now, just help yourself to internalize some of these technical jargons so that when you go for the boot camp, it will help you to in absorbing steps as much easier. Next is market capitalization. This is quite a mouthful and very, very important to an investor. Why? It represents the size of a, because capitalization is quite a mouthful, as I mentioned earlier. And small caps stock, smaller companies. Market capitalization represents the company. And as of all things, there are certain units attached to it. For example, when we talk about weight, we talk about height, the use. But when we talk about the size of a company, usually we'll measure in terms of billions or millions. And like I've mentioned, it's known as market cap. And blue chip, when we hear people say this is a blue chip stock, it represents most of the time bigger companies, the more established companies, which is more well-known to people. And when we talk about penny stocks, it represents smaller companies. And as you can see here, penny stocks, because it's small, hence market cap is smaller. And that's where you have this term or this picture here that says small caps, which means small capitalization company, which also means the size of the company is small. And you do not need to know the weight of a person to know that he's obese or underweight. Hence, sometimes by hearing the terms blue chip or penny stocks, we roughly know where this company or what is the size of this company. Likewise, we do not know what is the weight of an obese man, but we do know he is obese or overweight. Next is ticker symbol. It represents the code of the company on the stock exchange itself. So for example, Tin, he is commonly known to his friends as Tin Man. Likewise, in the real world, Facebook for the ticker symbol is FB, and for the Singapore Stock Exchange or the SGX is represented in S68. As you can see here, there's a huge difference between the naming of the different companies. For the US, most of the time, they prefer to use letters. As you can see here, Facebook is just FB. But for Singapore companies that are listed on the SGX, most of the time, they have a combination of letter and numbers. So don't be too bogged down by the details, like I've said, because the code of the company is just something that is good to know. But this will actually help you when you want to do your research or trading. So there's no need to memorize the stock symbol. However, it is good to know when you trade or when you're doing your research, because sometimes when you type it on the Google Singapore Exchange, it's going to be very difficult for you to find the necessary information about the company. But if you type S68 and you go to Yahoo Finance or Google Finance, it is much easier for you to find the necessary details you want to find out about Singapore Stock Exchange. This is more for the local market. Likewise, if you're looking for the prices of Facebook, you can type in the full Facebook price, or you can type FB price, and likewise the stock price will come out easily. The index represents an indicator for the market, and this is an excellent example of what the market represents from a historical point of view, or in fact in the future. Stock market is going to be something like this. You're going to have lots of ups and a lot of downs. For the US, they have the index of Dow Jones and S&P 500, or even the Nasdaq. Pardon me. For the Singapore market, we have the Straits Time Index. When we hear people say that the stock market moves up or down, they are referring to the index itself. Hence, index is an indicator for the market. So this is where whenever we're going to find out whether the market is doing well today or the market is not doing well today, we go to the index And for the Singapore, it's the Straits Times Index, and as for the US, it's Dow Jones or the S&P 500. And when it comes down to the volume, is the number of shares being transacted. So of course, there are two types of volumes. One is called buying volume, and another one is selling volume. Again, this is additional information for you because as investors, we do not focus so much on the volume itself. Because the higher the volume, the more actively traded a stock is. So as investor, we are going in for the long term. So we are not the volume transacted for a particular stock. And next up is liquidity. A trader or investor, we are definitely interested in liquidity. Why? Probably difficult to buy a company. So of course, money would in the middle of the road. You realize that it's very easy for anyone to take it. So it has easy liquidity or much liquidity as we term it. But if the bag of cash is kept in a secured location, that's where it's very difficult to access the bag of cash. It's very difficult for us to buy or sell the shares of the company. Hence, liquidity is often related to the volume of transactions. And the lower the liquidity, the lower the volume of shares traded. Hence, when we invest in any company, we want to ensure that it's not only easy for us to buy in, but it should be also easy for us to sell. Because if we can buy in easily and we cannot find a willing seller, a willing buyer after that, we're going to face a lot of trouble selling our shares, even though we may have gotten very good gains. Another good example would be if, let's say, for example, today, I were to invest in a property in an unknown area, and that particular property has gone up in terms of valuations. But when I want to sell this particular property to another person, no one wants to buy. And that's where, when it comes down to the liquidity of it, it is not liquid. Hence, it is often in the stock market closely related to the volume of transactions. And for the liquidity portion, if you have any concerns, you can always check with me before you do any form of investments. However, do note that this liquidity would only affect the smaller capitalization companies. Remember what smaller capitalization companies or the small cap companies? You represent the smaller companies. Bigger companies like, for example, Facebook, Singapore Exchange, Singtel, all these blue chip companies, most of the time, they do not face any liquidity issues. So you can just relax and start investing in blue chip companies first. And of course, to help you to wrap up this 4 to 5 technical jargons, we have your companion again. Today, he is not feeling well. So Tin took his temperature, and remember, temperature, usually we use degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit as an indicator. So how do we know when it comes down to the stock market, whether the stock market is going up or going down? We have the index. And Tin, because he realized that he's having fever, he decided to consult a doctor. And as of all doctors, they don't write the medicine name in full. They write it in shorthand, right? And this is similar to the ticker symbol of the particular company. Hence, like I've mentioned earlier, we do not need to memorize the ticker symbol. Okay, let me repeat this again. We do not need to memorize the ticker symbol, but it is good to know. When you go and visit the doctor, do you know what he's writing? Or do we need to know what he's writing? Most of the time we don't, right? We just check out at the medicine corner and we just retrieve the medicine that we need. All is important is the communication between the doctor and the staff in the medicine corner. And likewise, for investors, it is good for us to know the ticker symbol, but it's not a must. And for the doctor, he will always ask for the weight, right? So this is very similar to the market cap of a company. Like I've mentioned to you before, when it comes down to weight, the unit measurement is in kilograms. And when it comes down to the market cap unit or the market capitalization, which is the size of the company, how big or how small a particular company is, it is in terms of millions or billions as a form of measurement. And last but not least, after visiting the doctor, he will definitely prescribe medicine for us. And this represents the volume and liquidity, which is how many times we should be taking the medicine, how much should we be taking, and how often we should be taking the medicine. Likewise, when it comes down to investment, how many shares are we selling? How many shares are going to be bought? And in terms of how easy or difficult it is to sell our shares. All these are related to volume and liquidity. Volume represents the number of shares being sold or bought. Liquidity represents how easy or difficult this particular company can be sell. Let me rephrase. Liquidity represents how easy or difficult we can sell the shares of this particular company. So an overview about all the technical jargons. Tin is feeling hungry, he decided to go to the market, and the market represents the stock exchange because there are many different cuisines there, which is very similar to the different sectors of the world or the companies. And if he has selected a certain cuisine, he can narrow down on a specific choice. And likewise, for industry, it is a smaller classification of the sectors. And how do we know whether this particular are there available stocks? Because there are times where we may want to buy, but they may not have available stock for us when it comes down to our choice or preference of food. Likewise, when we are buying stocks from the market, it could be listed in the stock market, but there'll be days where the company may ask for a trading halt, which means they have decided to put their transactions or their trading of their shares on hold for that particular day due to different reasons. Hence, when we want to buy or sell, we'll be impeded by this trading halt. And moving on, when it comes down to temperature, Tin is feeling sick, he needs to take temperature. It's very similar to the index, which is the temperature of the stock market. And we do not need to memorize the shorthand of the doctor, but it'll be good to know what are the ticker symbols if, let's say, today you want to do your research or you want to do trading on your particular platform. And moving on, next is the size of the company. Like I have mentioned, the size of a person is measured in units of kilograms, whereas the size of a company is measured in terms of millions or billions. And this represents market capitalization of this company, or as the shorthand of the investment world, we always like to call it the market cap. And last but not least is the volume and liquidity of this particular stock. How many times, how often should we take this medicine? Likewise, when it comes down to the transaction of the shares, how much should we be buying? How easy or difficult it is for us to buy and sell the shares, which is in terms of liquidity. So don't be too bogged down by technical jargons, but please take some time to review this entire video. Help yourself to internalize the different jargons, because for the first row, stock exchange, sectors, industry, stock, are certain terms that we will definitely commonly use. On the other hand, when we talk about index, market cap, volume, and liquidity, I'll be speaking on them on certain occasions, but not as often as the first row. So for the second row, it'll be good for you to know and help you to understand more. But for now, just focus on the first row first, which is the stock exchange, the sectors, industry, and stock. Okay, let me review this entire process again. Stock exchange represents this is where the companies are listed. Sectors is the classification or the groups of company. Industry is a small classification of the company. And stock represents your actual purchase or selling of a certain percentage of the company. Index is an indicator of that particular company. Pardon me. Index represents the temperature of the market sentiment. Ticker symbol represents the shorthand of a doctor. We do not need to memorize the shorthand of the doctor, but it will be good for us if we want to do our research to find out more about certain companies or certain details on the company. Market cap represents the size of the company. Volume represents the number of transactions for this particular company. And liquidity represents how easy or difficult for us and as investors to buy or sell our shares. All right. Let me stop the screen share. And so for this particular video, you will need some time to get yourself familiarized with the technical jargons. And as I've mentioned before, it's okay if at the start you find that it's a bit mind-boggling, but after a while you start to get yourself used to it. It's very much like learning how to speak a new language. You're definitely not going to learn how to speak a new language within a day or two. Hence, I strongly encourage you after the bootcamp, not only come down for the monthly gatherings, but to do a little bit more reading. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to send your questions to me and I'll address it during our weekly newsletter. Oh, before I forget, talking about weekly newsletter, please take some time to read the weekly newsletters because this will really help you to transit into the investment world smoother. And whatever questions that you may have, I'll address it during the weekly newsletters as well. All right, so that's all for this particular video. Looking forward to seeing you this coming Saturday and Sunday for the bootcamp. Have fun and rest early the night before. See you on that day.